Very good afternoon, 12:32. It's time for Parenting Today, your number one parenting show on radio. My name is Ifunaya. And as usual, I will be having a conversation with the CEO of Lagos Moms, Yetty Williams. Good afternoon, Yetty. How's it going?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. How's it going?
It's going well, thank you.
Fantastic.
Almost wrapping
I know, right? I know. Yes, we're just grateful and thankful. It's beautiful to see the end of the year, and Christmas is a whole lot of us's favorite time of the year. So it's exciting seeing the lights and just having that family time at heart and just knowing that you're going to eat a lot. So super excited about that. All right, let's get into the topic for today, which I believe is fitting for the time of the year that we are in, taking stock of the year. That's what we are going to be talking about today. Yetty, I want you to describe succinctly what really taking stock of the year is. What does it look like? What truly is it? Is it just a reflective moment? You know, is there a method to it? Is there a formula to successfully taking stock of the year?
Did you see my notes before we started this reading?
No, I didn't. Love it. Great minds.
I love the way you said, is there a formula?
Yes.
You know, I have a process that I use personally and I also use with my clients because, you know, there's nothing like you've had a long year. Sometimes, depending on where you live, depending on the situations you are facing in your life, you can feel overwhelmed. You can feel like, it's been such a long year. I can't wait to shut down. And, you know, I just can't wait for it to be over so that next year I can just start again. But many times that same feeling you have, whether positive, negative, it's going to it doesn't go anywhere. It might take a back seat over the holidays, right? Whether you're doing dirty December, eating out, partying, whatever it is.
Exactly.
Those feelings just take a back seat. And the only thing that changes come January 1st, by God's grace, we're all here to see it, is that, you know, the clock has just changed. Another 24 hours has passed.
Exactly.
And you've just gotten into a new year and you're bringing with you every single thing. You know, your feelings, your emotions, your state of mind, everything follows you into the new year. Nothing automatically changes. True. And many years ago, I stopped talking about resolutions because a resolution you just say is, this year I resolved to this. And usually by end of that month, those resolutions have flown out.
Unfortunately.
You know, because a resolution is just somebody speaking words. It's just a wish. It's really about the goal setting, but goal setting from a perspective where you have reflected on the past year. And I feel that for many, many people, it's not something we're necessarily taught is how do you reflect, you know, and it's actually a practice I've recently learned because I've gotten a supervisor myself, you know, as I'm advancing in my, you know, coaching services and joining different global bodies.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. Well done.
Thank you.
Wow.
There are certain requirements. So you can't just, because essentially, if you're not careful as a coach, you essentially are working for yourself, by yourself, and your only feedback usually are the clients that you serve, right?
Okay.
But having supervision means that somebody on a level above you who's essentially your boss, who's then spending time with you, talking about your coaching methodologies, your intervention, how are you improving, what are you bringing in? And a particular part of this process is something called reflective log. So essentially reflecting on everything you're learning, you're doing as a coach yourself, always reflecting. When you get used to it, it's like having a muscle where you're constantly reflecting. What did I learn here? What am I going to apply? Maybe what didn't work so well? Was there an area of challenge? Why was it challenging? What can I do about that to be more effective next time?
Yes.
So if you are constantly working on that as a person, you improve overall. So for me, it's the same thing when we talk about a year in review, taking stock of the year. The first thing I say is just start with an attitude of gratitude.
Okay.
I'm actually looking at a worksheet that I have that I've downloaded and I'm passing to a few people.
Okay.
And the first thing is to list 3 things you are grateful for that happened this year. You know, some people can say, it's more than 3. And you're like, it's okay. Just focus on 3. The top 3 things that you're very grateful for that happened this year. Right? So just pause and think of that and literally write it down, because I find that a lot of us, we keep so much going in our heads that we don't take the time to put pen to paper. And there's just something psychologically that happens when you take pen to paper.
Okay.
So actually writing down just 3 things that you're grateful for that happened this year. And then looking at how did these things you are grateful for, rather, how do they positively impact your life? So it's one thing to say, I'm grateful for this. But then, okay, how did it positively impact your life this year? And that takes you a deeper level of assessing what it is you say you are grateful for.
Yes.
Right? And then you reflect on any lessons that you've learned from challenging situations, because life is not a bed of roses. In fact, bed of roses has what in it? Thorns. So life is a mix of the good, not so good, but the point is reflecting on that. So what are some of the lessons that you've learned from challenging situations? Then next, you're working on reflecting on your progress this year. What are you most proud of? What this is doing a little bit is, this is also based a bit on like neurological pathways. If you focus on what you are grateful for, you note what you are grateful for. I've thrown in there thinking about 1 or 2 challenges, but then you're coming back and ending with, let me reflect on my progress this year. What am I most proud of? You are forcing your brain to think about the good things that have happened for you this year. And you are noting those things, because, life doesn't happen to us. Life happens for us.
I love that.
But the only way life can happen for us is when we see every situation that happens to us not as happening to us, but happening for us, which means this happened for me to do what about it. And when you get into that position, you're able to see everything as what it is. It is just a situation. It might be unpleasant, but then what am I doing about that to, come out of it to what end?
Okay.
And I know it might sound complicated, but it actually really isn't. And once you get into that habit, you find that no matter what happens, your mind is thinking, okay, that wasn't particularly pleasant for this reason. But what have I learned from that? And what can I do in the future to actually possibly avoid that? Or if it was to happen again, this is how I would react.
Okay. So reflect on progress. So before we even carry on, let's just take a step backwards, a couple of steps backwards, right? So you've mentioned the attitude of gratitude. You've mentioned that we should write or take note of 3 things that we're grateful for. And even if you have more, just focus on those 3 things. And the thing, one thing that I've also noticed is when we begin to focus on the positive, it gives way to more positive, for us to even remember that more things happen than we thought. So there are some times where we have like a general blanket thought of how our 2023 has been. And sometimes the thought may be based on that one goal that you didn't achieve, as opposed to having a generic, in-depth view to see that, yes, that one goal, you didn't achieve it, but there are like 5 other goals that you achieved. Don't forget that there are things that you were grateful for in January, February, maybe the first quarter, the second quarter. Maybe you had something that you wanted to achieve Q4, and then you're realizing, I didn't achieve it. And then you're just like, oh my goodness, this 2023, I didn't really enjoy it. But then if you take a look at those 3 things, sit down, take a look at the 3 things that you're grateful for. In fact, it will be like a floodgates of things start coming back to your memory, remembering that a whole lot of good happened in your life. So just getting those 3 things that you're grateful for, having that attitude of gratitude. You also said to us that we should focus on the lessons that we've learned as well. You've also told us that we should reflect on progress as well, how far we have come, how much better we have become, things that we have learned. And I love the fact that you said, and this is a question of perspective. Life is not happening to you, it's happening for you. Just having that perspective, it makes a deal of difference how you embrace or receive situations that you experience. I love that. That's fantastic. All right, Yetty, let's carry on.
Yes. The other day I was listening to a particular message, and my son and I started talking about it. That, research scientifically, it shows that we have 70,000 thoughts a day. How they got that number, I don't know. But let's assume that they probably used all this very fancy imaging, machinery that's now available, right? Because they're able to scan parts of our brains that they could never have scanned before.
Yes.
So there's a lot of studying happening where they're seeing what is lighting up in somebody's brain. So there's, this is backed by research as well. And it says that we have 70,000 thoughts a day. But the interesting thing is that out of those 70,000 thoughts a day, only 14,000 of them are good and positive.
Only 14,000 out of the 70 thoughts? Wow. 70,000
thoughts we have daily.
Just 14,000 are positive.
Only about 14,000 are positive thoughts.
Wow. Only 14,000.
And our brains are wired to latch onto the negative. And they think it's because in the forefathers' time, right? They had to always be vigilant about dangers in their environment.
Fight or flight.
If they were hunting or one of them should disappear or they didn't know a lion was coming. So the brain is it's wired to look out for negativity, to look out for danger. However, when we now live in a world where the danger is not equal to trying to avoid running away from a lion, but we still have our brain, the mechanisms haven't changed that much from our ancestors, really. So if our brains are wired to focus on negative thoughts more, that means that, what percentage is that? I don't know, I didn't do the math, but if only 14% are good thoughts, and our brains operate more automatically, they stick to negative thoughts. Negative thoughts are easier to call up. That's why a lot of good things could have happened. But like you said, if this December you thought you would make, I don't know, 100 million a year, and you didn't hit that, somebody can feel like the whole year has been a wash.
Exactly. Wow.
I didn't hit that number, so therefore the whole year is wasted. Actually, that's not true. So when you understand some of this, I find that it's easier for you to train your brain, because you realize this brain is just being very efficient. It's trying to save me. And to save me, it means that it wants me to always be thinking about if there's danger coming, I'm able to run.
Yes.
But the truth is that for most of us, we never need to be in that level of fight or flight all the time. We don't need to. But if there are things going on internally where you are not feeling, you're stressed, those cortisol, the hormones of cortisol is being released in your body regularly.
The stress hormones, wow.
Yes, you're just at those, your stress hormone level is high. Your brain is not effectively working. It's not able to think about, life is working for me, or life is happening for me, not to me. You're not even getting there because your default is to say, can you see? See what happened again?
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? And it's very easy to go down that rabbit hole. So I want us to just sit on that to say that most of us are operating from our subconscious. Most decisions, I think they said over 90% of our decisions, daily habits, are formed, and most of us are reacting based on subconscious. So what is in your subconscious? Is it negative thoughts? Is it negative feelings? Is it you're not good enough? Is it, if that is what is your program in your brain constantly, that is what you'll be reacting to. And then nothing will ever feel like it's good enough. Or even when you celebrate that, this happened, it'll be short-lived, right? Because the default is, I'm back to grinding.
Exactly.
I'm hustling. Life is just so hard. If that is your prevalent mood all the time, it will always shadow this attitude of gratitude we're talking about. That needs to be the one that you constantly work on a daily basis, so that is what is winning in general. So even when something unpleasant happens, which life is that, even if it's just the news you turn on and you see some bad news, bombing somewhere, that is part of the bad stuff that happens to us. But if that's all you are internalizing, it's very difficult for your brain to get to a level where you can start to move towards the next part of taking stock of the year, which is reviewing some of the goals you set.
Yes.
Rating the progress, once again, but not from a place of beating yourself up for the things you didn't achieve. It's more being self-compassionate and saying, okay, if I set 3 goals at the beginning of the year, and if I'm to rate my progress on a scale of 1 to 10 of these 3, maybe I didn't get to 10 on all of them. Maybe I'm at 5 on one, I'm 10 on one, and I'm at 0 on another. Okay? It's not to beat yourself up. The next part of this progress is to say, or this worksheet is to say, what hindered your progress towards achieving the goals?
Okay.
Once again, it's self-compassion. It's like, okay, what actually, it's not about, you're useless. See? You can never do whatever you set yourself to. Please, when those voices come in, give that voice a name.
I love that.
We all have this, agony auntie in our head or agony uncle.
Yes.
Who wants to tell you
agony uncle, that's interesting.
Because everybody always make it agony auntie.
True.
It's our agony uncle. That's always there to tell you, hey, see now, madam, you think you can do all the things. All of us have it, or you just have to have identified what does it sound like, what does it look like. So when you hear, be like, thank you, uncle, thank you, auntie. But then right now, I'm not having that conversation. Like, it might sound like it's crazy, but that your brain needs you to tell it who is in charge. So when you say, okay, what hindered my progress? What made me not achieve these goals? It is only then that you can start saying, all right, what am I going to do differently? Maybe that goal is actually not a goal that should be a goal.
Yes.
It's possible that you set some goals and they actually shouldn't be goals. Is it really yours? Do you have everything you need to make that goal, actualize that goal? If you can't, you need to think, okay, what needs to shift? Do I need to go and get new skills? Do I need to pack it to something I do 10 years down the line? Because maybe you have all these goals. This is for the young moms who are listening. Maybe you have 3 children under the age of 5, and you have some big goals that match an auntie whose children are all in uni.
Yes.
So you don't have the same amount of time. So you will always feel that you're falling short because your life is not equal to the life of that person whose children are at a different stage, and therefore she has more time to maybe go to all the events that you wish you could, but you can't because you have 3 children under the age of 5. Can you just acknowledge that this season for you means that some of your goals need to shift?
I like that. I like that. I like that. And I like that it's sort of, getting people to be realistic doesn't necessarily mean that you are trying to quench whatever dream it is from them, but letting them understand that life is in phases as well. And so whatever comparison that you should be doing should be based on the phase that you're at the moment. It doesn't mean that eventually these things won't happen, but where you're at, you need to also be rating and assessing yourself based on that. I like that. I feel like that's something that people need to bear in mind when taking stock.
Absolutely. Because I know we talk a lot about work and life, work-life balance, work-life harmony. Yes. I can have it all. Me, I'm very realistic. Yes, you can have work and life harmony or integration or balance. However, I do believe that you need to be realistic about the season of life you're in. And don't put your ladder against somebody else's wall.
Wow. I like that. Don't put your ladder against someone else's wall. This should be like a quote. I love it. Please put that quote on our WhatsApp. Don't put your ladder against someone else's wall. Yetty Williams, 2023.
I love it.
Love it.
Go and do journal.
Yeah. Wow.
I started using that a while ago. Like, just don't. If you put your ladder against somebody else's wall, whose wall are you climbing? Whose goals are you trying to achieve? Somebody else's, not yours.
Wow.
Right? So when you put your own ladder against your wall, it is about, okay, where am I in my life right now? What am I trying to achieve? What do I control? And the things that you don't control, but yet you want it to be a goal, then you might need to start looking at something called the capabilities in your life, right? So let's say, for example, a goal of yours is maybe to earn more money in your business. But currently you haven't been able to hit a particular limit. You haven't been able to scale that limit, but you want to earn more. Yes. This is a practical example because let's look at what has happened with our currency devaluation, right? So suddenly for a lot of people, guess what? You actually have to earn more. Otherwise, standard of living is going to be very, very different for a lot of people. Yes. And there's a lot of demands involved. So if you look and say, okay, one of my goals is I need to earn more, right? Just saying that as a wish or a resolution does not equal what are you actually going to do,
exactly,
right? To make sure you are earning more. That's when you become focused on, okay, planning for the future, because part of taking stock is all this, what has happened, but now what do we want to do in the next year? So if that's one of your goals is I want to earn more, you're going to say, okay, earn how much more? If you leave things vague, your brain will say, thank you, I've heard you. And that's where we end.
Yes.
But you need to be specific. I need to earn, I don't know, I want to earn $10,000 a month. That's a figure. You are then honest. What have you earned per month this year?
Yes.
So people say, I don't know. My business is cyclical. No problem. Give me an average. you should have your numbers, Abby. If a business person who's not close to their numbers, that's a hobby.
I love that.
That's a hobby. If you can't say, actually, on this business, on average monthly, this is what we bring in. Wow. You must know. So that when you know what the gap is, you can start saying, okay, what am I actually going to do to achieve that bigger number? Otherwise, you say that December 2024 can come and nothing has changed. And what do? You beat yourself up. Hey, another year has gone. I didn't make more. Versus, okay, I want to make this much more. This is my reality now. What actually am I going to do to earn more? It might be that you need to go into a new line of business. It might be that you need to increase your prices. It might be that you need to earn in FX because there's only so much your local customers can absorb. Do you know what I mean? The increase in prices you need to be able to live at a different lifestyle. So it might be that, you know what, I need to expand my business globally.
Okay.
When you are then honest like that, you can say, okay, if I'm going to go global, how am I going to go global? Where do I already have a network? What am I going to do to break into it? Is it a product? Is it a service? Then you can start being specific. By the time you finish this exercise, guess what? You actually have a plan.
Wow.
That you can then start saying, let me start working this plan. And then I can see if I'm making progress or if I'm not making progress. But it is based on actual facts of things that I can look at on a daily basis. And I can measure whether I'm moving in the direction I want or not. And I just use this example, but it's the same with everything in life, really, that we make our goals. And the last thing I'll say is, as you plan for 2024, try not to have more than maybe 3 main goals. Some of us have a list, the kind of list of goals some people have. 20 years, they can't finish it.
Oh, my days.
In 20 years, you can't finish it. So just try and have 3.
Okay.
3. Some of those 3 can be big where they are sub goals, but let it be 3 main goals. And if you've never tried it, I would say try it for the next year. Just have 3 goals. And guess what? If you smash those goals early, then what can happen? You create another set of goals. Like, you're not in competition with anybody. Remember, it's your wall, it's your ladder. So if you run the race and you're like, these 3 goals I set, wow, end of March, I've smashed them. I'm doing well. Okay, you know what? As I'm looking at the next quarter, I can create some additional goals based on these ones that I have achieved. Nobody's going to flog you.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. And I feel like it also is very encouraging as well. When you're able to achieve your goals, it encourages you to believe that then I can do this, then I could do that. And I feel like the more you smash those goals, the more you even expand how far you dream. You expand how far and how much you actually dream. So yeah, I do believe that. And you know, when people are sort of kind of like creatives, there are so many things that go on in their head. And I'm just making reference to, you know, some people that have goals that even in 20 years, in 20 years time, you know, they can't even achieve it. So I think we also need to maybe like give them tips on just very quickly, give them tips on how to identify out of all the fantastic 20 goals, which are those 3, like you mentioned, focus on just 3, but they probably will start getting confused. Okay, which of the 3? How do I know which 3 is best for or are best for 2024?
Right. Great question. And I think sometimes creatives can be their own worst enemy. Because you can do everything doesn't mean you should do everything.
Wow.
Because in fact, when you try to do everything, guess what will happen?
What?
You will do nothing.
Wow.
Or you will actually end up under-delivering. And you will always then feel a part of you that feels like, why am I not living up to my potential?
Yeah.
I have so much more potential. But guess what? Potential is just like an adjective. Okay. A Mercedes-Benz will go much faster maybe than a Yaris. But if you don't turn the ignition of the Mercedes-Benz,
exactly,
it's not going to go anywhere.
Exactly.
It has potential to go at 200 miles per hour or whatever, but if you don't turn it on and start to drive it, it's not going to go anywhere. So I think this message is really for creatives, especially for somebody like me who I used to think I wasn't creative, by the way, for a long time.
Really? Why? That's interesting. That is so intriguing. Wow.
And I think there's a topic around shaking off labels.
I love that.
You grew up, whoever placed those labels on you, sometimes they really limit you. So getting to the point where you can shake off those labels and say, actually, wait, so you know what? Anyway, so back to your question. In terms of what 3, what I really do with people is there's something called the exercise of a wheel of life.
Okay.
Where you literally look at your life in 8 dimensions. And these dimensions covers everything, right? And then when you look at that, you can look at the areas of your life that are quite low.
Okay.
Because some people will say, okay, how do I know which ones to focus on? The truth is, if you look at your life and certain areas are running quite nicely, you've gotten the system going, it's chugging along, but you might have one area that's niggling. So, for example, in creatives, something that can be very high is that maybe they have a lot of self-satisfaction. Oh my God, that can be on 10, right? Because they're doing what they love. They're able to wake up every day and creatively create, right? But then maybe the part of that wheel of life is that their finances are low.
Oh, I get it.
There's no way that you're going to be thriving if you are feeling that you're creatively expressing yourself, but you can't live the kind of lifestyle. You can't pay your bills. You can't do the basic things to get you through life.
Exactly.
But you're very happy. Are you really happy?
Wow.
Are you really happy if you cannot take care of yourself? So when we say, what are the main 3 goals? You need to be honest. This is like personal internal surgery. Nobody is seeing the mess. It's you and yourself and your honesty. So you have to be able to say what is struggling. And we have to be careful because also in this social media world we live in, there's a lot of packaging. Everybody else's life looks so shiny. Oh my God, today my pictures were just, all over the place in this place. And I can't believe I had the chance to drop everything and da-da-da-da-da. Ooh, we take pictures, fantastic.
Ooh,
when you go home. But then you go home and you're like, how am I going to pay my rent?
Exactly.
How will people believe that even though I just finished putting all of that story on social media, I actually don't know where my rent money is coming from?